Guyana reopening its airports. We'll tell you when it will happen and what measures the country is putting in place. Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley calling on Caribbean countries to band together to survive in a changing global environment. Belize and Taiwan signing a new air services agreement designed to expand air connectivity and consolidate a partnership between the two countries. Innovation during the pandemic, how one Haitian-born business owner is finding new ways to connect and empower Black men around the world. And Jamaica announcing plans to set up a new community tourism unit.
This is the Caribbean Times News with Alisha Davis.
I'm Alisha Davis in New York. Thanks for being with us. And we begin with our headline story, Guyana set to reopen its airports. According to Public Works Minister Juan Edgehill, both of Guyana's airports will reopen to international travelers on October 12th. There will be COVID-19 measures, including testing of all people entering Guyana. And Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley is calling on Caribbean countries to band together to survive in a changing global environment. In her address to a virtual meeting of the Board of Governors of the Caribbean Development Bank, Mottley warned that it cannot be business as usual. She urged a redoubling of efforts to strengthen regional institutions to be able to handle global pandemics, the climate crisis, and whatever else that comes.
It was the time, my friends, that we need to redouble, relook, and reforge our regional institutions. There's a time to consider our international relationships, a time to build new coalitions for change. In some, this is not the time for business as usual. Now is when we must make our institutions fit for the brave new world, one that we want to build, one replete that can handle global pandemics, climate crisis, and whatever else that comes to test us, because 1 year ago, we did not expect this pandemic. 10 years ago, we needed regional institutions that were well managed, prudent, and stable. We did not need regional institutions then that were nimble in managing systemic crises or that had to think creatively about how to react. Today, however, we require regional institutions that are not only well managed, but have a capacity for reflection, for innovation, for global coalition building, and for imagination.
And now to Belize and Taiwan signing a new air services agreement. It's designed to expand air connectivity and consolidate a partnership in aviation, travel, and trade between the two countries. Over the past decade, Belize has seen a 60% increase of its regional and international air connectivity, which has been one of the key factors in the growth of its tourism sector. Belize has signed similar arrangements with countries including the U.S., Malaysia, Singapore, the United Arab Emirates, and Honduras. And now to a business owner finding new ways to innovate during the pandemic. Jeff Linder was born in Haiti and raised in a public housing development in Brooklyn, New York. Well, now he is dedicating his life to breaking down the barriers to success for Black men. He is the founder of the Gentleman's Factory. It's a place where men of color can come together to share ideas and build businesses. Earlier today, I spoke with Jeff about his company and how it's doing during the pandemic. Now, tell us about the Gentleman's Factory and why you started it.
The Gentleman's Factory is a membership community that's advancing the lives of men of color. And I started it because Black and brown men grow in isolation, and there aren't enough spaces that really, speaks and cater to our unique experiences. Then after graduate school, I was looking for a place to go to build with my fellow brothers, right? And there weren't really enough spaces for that. So as an innovator, I just created one myself.
And how does your background and your Caribbean heritage play a part in what you're doing?
Yeah, good question. I think that me being Haitian, born in Haiti but raised in Brooklyn, my parents instilled in me the, ambition, the, go-getter mentality. And if you see a problem, solve it. Don't complain. So I think that that's what's really ingrained in me and looking at ways of how I could innovate. And I'm constantly doing that. And then, Haitians and Black people in general and all people are resilient people. But, just that level of exposure that I got at such a young age and seeing it through my parents, that definitely ingrained in me that ambition to keep going.
And now, given the limitations on gathering, how has the pandemic affected your business?
Yeah, so initially in March, when everything shut down, I'm saying, oh, wow, like, what are we going to do at the Gentleman's Factory? But then, our physical space is a tool, but it's not the actual business, right? Our business and the problem that we're solving is really creating spaces for Black and brown men to share resources and build and connect and really advance each other. So we used our physical space as a tool to reach that goal. But as a result of COVID, we pivoted everything into digital. And we've reached that goal, but not only in New York City, but all across the world now. So we have members literally throughout the Caribbean, the continent of Africa, all over the U.S. and beyond, right? So, that's really kind of how we've pivoted in this pandemic.
It's fantastic. And now, what advice do you have for other business owners who may be kind of struggling to find ways to reinvent their businesses during these challenging times?
Well, so what I would say is look to see what problem your consumers are going through, right? Look at their pain points, look at and interview them, do focus groups, and just don't assume, right? So I'm a Black man, but when I started the Gentleman's Factory, I surveyed thousands of Black and brown men throughout New York City because I needed to get a better understanding of what is it that they're going through, what are their issues, what are their needs, and how can I help solve that? So, if I did that 3-4 years ago when the world was, normal to a certain degree, I'm still doing that right now as we're going through this pandemic. So I think that, in business, you want to not focus on your product, but focus on your consumers' problems, right? Because when you can solve their problems, then they'll always come to you because you have something that they need.
And we're going to take a quick break, but we will continue our conversation with Jeff Linder just after the break. Stay with us.
Since the coronavirus, global travel seems risky, but with Promo Caribbean, you don't have to worry. Our COVID-19 alerts feature, coupled with our comprehensive travel guide featuring over 20 countries, contains all you need to keep updated and safe during the pandemic. Whether it's Belize, Barbados, Haiti, or Guyana, our travel guide has all you need from safe places to eat, transport options, pharmacies, embassies, hotels, and Airbnbs. Not feeling well? You could take the COVID self-assessment test on our app. If you happen to be in the Caribbean or are looking to travel during these uncertain times, then Promo Caribbean is going to be your best friend. Today more than ever, you need to stay informed and stay safe. With Promo Caribbean, you don't have to worry. We've got you. Download the app from the App Store or Play Store now.
For the latest in Caribbean culture, news, sports, and entertainment, tune in to CaribVision. We keep you up to date on developments in your region. CaribVision. We broadcast across the Caribbean, in the New York tri-state area, Canada, and Europe. CaribVision, the eyes and ears of the Caribbean.
And welcome back to Caribbean Times News and more of our conversation with Jeff Linder, the founder of the Gentleman's Factory. Now, Jeff, with all of the protests that we're seeing around the world, how is social justice being discussed at the Gentleman's Factory?
Yeah, so we're always asking what is the solutions that we're looking for, right? So one of the things that we've done immediately during the outbreak of the protests is we formed a committee. And the Gentleman's Factory is a membership community of gentlemen in all, walks of life, in all spaces, in all professions. So then we formed a task force where we then now said, hey, what exactly should we be doing? What's the talking points that we could send out into the community so that people can know what we want and what is it that we demand, right? So, so in that, we've been speaking a lot with corporations in terms of where they're allocating their dollars, but then also not even from a philanthropic standpoint, but more so from a supplier diversity standpoint. So how are they spending their dollars when it comes to contractors, and how are they hiring at all levels, not only from entry, but to executive staff and even board members. So, we're really having a holistic approach to how do we have long lasting change, and we see it through economics.
So important. And this pandemic has placed a real strain on some marriages and relationships. We've seen rates of domestic violence increasing, seen divorce. Is this an issue that the men in your organization are discussing?
Well, yeah. So we, are always having, mental health specialists come in to talk about how to de-stress and be in a positive state of mind, right? And how to cope with these pandemics, and how do you cope with the realities that the world that we're living in, right? So, what we've seen is an increase in mental health services. Many of our members are in that field. But then also a lot of our members are asking where can they go to seek a therapist or a counselor. And, we have group discussions at the Gentleman's Factory on the digital platform where it's unrecorded, and it's just really just creating an outlet so that members can just talk, right? Unfiltered. So, I think that everyone needs an outlet, especially with the times that we're going through. And then, men, generally speaking, just boil everything in until they burst it out, right? So, we at the Gentleman's Factory really want to serve as that platform and that safe space for you to really, explore who you are, and also, be surrounded by other individuals who are doing the same thing.
And what are some simple ways that men can do that, basically, can support each other during this time of increased isolation for so many people?
Yeah, right. So what we do at the Gentleman's Factory is check-ins, right? So we literally just call each other, a 5-minute check-in. Hey, man, how's it going? You good? Do you need anything? Right? What's going on? And then you would be surprised that it's those things that really matter, because it's like, wow, like you're actually checking on me, right? And I think that a lot of times, everyone, but men specifically, especially the heads of the household, we're not conditioned to talk, right? We are conditioned to just do, right? But what I've seen would happen with the pandemic is that it gave everybody a time to think and to reflect and to really observe. And in that, I've seen a lot of innovation come out of this, but then I've also seen a lot of reflection and sadness and saying, wow, you know what, like, I've been doing so much, but how far has I gone, right? So one of the things that we always say is don't confuse movement with progress. So I think that with this pandemic, a lot of people are really reflecting and just seeing that they've just been moving and moving and moving and not really going anywhere. So I think that everyone is really kind of just getting a better understanding of themselves and seeing how they can be better people.
So true. That was Jeff Linder, the founder of the Gentleman's Factory. Coming up, Jamaica announcing plans to set up a new community tourism unit. That is just ahead.
Mac Shack, New York, dedicated to providing a unique dining experience by offering classic, seasonal, and modern creative macaroni and cheese flavors. Find their locations at macshacknewyork.com. That's MACSHACKNY.com.
And welcome back to Caribbean Times News. And in our Caribbean Moment by Caribbean Journal, Jamaica announcing plans to set up a new community tourism unit. The new unit will, quote, work with communities and hotels to expand participation by community members while providing authentic experiences for all persons visiting Jamaica. The Ministry of Tourism cited Jamaica's annual Blue Mountain Coffee Festival as an example of community involvement and sustainable tourism development benefiting coffee farmers and communities in the hills of rural St. Andrew. And that does it for this edition of the Caribbean Times News. To all of our viewers across the Caribbean and around the world, thank you for watching and good night.